Was Eminem around at this point in time, or?
So Eminem was around back then. I remember them picking me up, 9th grade, taking me back to their house, and me and Marshall would be in the basement making rap songs. And me and Marshall always got along. He hated Bob. They didn't really know each other, so I'm sure they hated each other just for, Marshall was always awesome, right? He was always the badass rapper. But Kid Rock was the first one out of Detroit with the record deal. But then fast forward, we're out in California mixing Devil Without a Cause, and we get to like this corporate housing place where they put us up at for like the month to sit there and mix this record. Marshall's walking down the hallway. This is out in California, right? And he's like, "What are you guys doing here?" "I'm Uncle Kracker, and you're watching Like a Farmer."
I like that. Hey, y'all, it's Pat. Welcome to another episode of Like a Farmer. Finally, Matthew Schaefer. And you might not know that name because the stage name being Uncle Kracker. I'm talking about, this is my favorite guest of all time already. This is the
man.
one.
Thank you.
I am so excited.
Thank you.
But I just want to start with, like, where are we at today? Like, what's been going on? I mean, from where you started to now, like, what are you doing right now? What's your main goals? What's your main objectives? What's going on with Uncle Kracker?
Man, that's a big question. I almost feel like I have to have answers for this thing, right? I have not had any goals from the time I started this to where I'm at right now, other than I just started out making songs, writing songs, and recording them, and ended up DJing for Kid Rock, ended up with a solo record deal, and it's been 25 years or so easily, and I tour. I do 150 shows a year, have for the last, I don't know how many years, except for them COVID ones.
Yeah.
Nah, nobody toured.
No. And then you want to talk about just changing the game. And we talk about a little bit off camera, like you're claiming that you're not good at selling anything, and I just don't agree with that.
I'm not, man. I'm not. I wish I had like a little marketing sense, like everything I do, it seems like I just do it wrong. Like, oh, you need a Cutlass Supreme for this, this video, right? I'll do, oh, sweet, man. I need one of them, like 76 Cutlass Supremes with the T-tops, something like my grandpa would have been driving, back in Detroit. No, it's not good enough. You need like the 67 Cuddy, right? I just do everything the wrong way, I guess.
I just disagree, man. I
swear,
really do.
It doesn't matter what it is.
How long have you been doing the music thing? Like,
I've been doing the music thing probably since I was 12. I was in the studio with Kid Rock, as a matter of fact, and got my first record deal at 15. That was a long time
just
ago.
A legend, man.
Oh, shoot.
Are you kidding? Where did you grow up?
I grew up probably 17 minutes outside of Detroit City.
Okay.
And not downtown in the thick of the madness, right? Well, there's no real madness downtown, right? It's all crazy. But you get a few minutes outside of downtown, it gets nuts. And then you go a little further, and then there's some spots that are all along the water and things like that. And that's pretty much where I grew up. It was all old farmland where I grew up. It was literally like, I don't know, everything. You couldn't divide up your property. It had to be X amount of acres here and there. And it was actually like, it was all old farmland that over the years they'd farmed the shit out of it. So you couldn't farm it anymore, I guess. But something happens with the soil, probably.
Dude, you talk about that whole area. It's one of the most blue collar areas out there. It's just, it's great farm grant, but it's that blue collar jobs too. The hardworking individuals that come out of that area. It's just bootstrappers.
Absolutely.
You strap the boots up and you get to work, whatever you're doing, and you get it done. You saying that you started music at 12, like that. I feel like everybody from that area just has a beautiful entrepreneur mind. Like, what got you to do music at 12 years old? When
I was little, you'd stay up late on Fridays and Saturdays, right, to try to catch, like, public access shows. This is going back, like, a long time. I'm old. So this goes back a long time ago. And at about midnight, your cable, your public access shows would come on. And that's when you'd get to see, like, the shows like Soul Train and things like that. They wouldn't play those till, like, 11 or 12 at night. Then all of a sudden they started spinning, like, these old rap videos. I remember when I was 10 years old, I saw the Fat Boys come on and they were singing this. They had this video called Jailhouse Rap, and it was like these 3 dudes rapping and eating in jail. Like it was like this. It was the best thing I'd ever seen in my life, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, and I just immediately dove into all things rap. You know, like. Well, Run DMC obviously was a big one, but like even like I went further, and back then you could go to record stores and you could pick up the record and you'd read the back and it would show you who produced it, who wrote it, where it was recorded, what record label, and record labels were there was a big thing. Record labels back then, if it had like Def Jam on the back of it, you're like, oh, I know that must be a good one, you know. And this was before they started just like churning out junk, right? But you use the back of these albums to piggyback and buy the next thing you were going to love, and you trusted these labels that were, you know, those were the gatekeepers, and you trusted that somebody was putting out something good. But I was enamored by everything rap, and a few years went by, and I'd just been writing songs, you know, just in my bedroom as, you know, a little kid, dumb stuff.
Who are you looking up to in the rap game at that point?
At that point, it was people like Curtis Blow and Fat Boys and Wolf Ticket, and then things progressed, and as they always do, you know, things got better, and then it started getting way more marketable. People started figuring out how to sell it, you know, different ways, but the music got better too, like in a different way, you know. But I was looking up to all those people, and few years went by, and I'd met Kid Rock at a teen club one night, and he and I became best friends.
Like are y'all close to the same age, and y'all are at the club together?
Nope, he's 3 years older than I, and this was a bar that turned into a teen club on Sunday nights, right?
Damn, that's a cool concept.
It was cool. So Sunday nights, you know, it'd just be a bunch of kids, but the R&B station in Detroit, WJLB, they had this guy named the Electrifying Mojo. He was like their nighttime disc jockey, and he was badass. Like he would, at night when I was a kid, if you had that on, like the windows open, it was dark, you know, he'd come on, he'd start his show like landing like the mothership, like this spaceship would land. You'd hear it just all eerie and crazy, like the Electrifying Mojo. You know, you knew when it was gonna be a good night of music, right? It was this was back when you could listen to radio, and it was a good time. This is back when they didn't just play like everything back to back. You know, radio stations in Detroit growing up played, you know, they'd play a jazz song, behind it they'd play a pop song, behind it they'd play an R&B song, rock and roll. It was like the DJ played what he wanted, you know, things that he thought were popping off, I guess, right? But it was a time. This radio just felt a lot better back then, not being so like compartmentalized, maybe.
100%.
And I never used that word in my life, and I'm sorry, I just did it now. I was just trying
to fact check Uncle Kracker over here and his terminology.
Yes, please.
This is, and I go back and forth on, you know, okay, got Uncle Kracker coming on the show, and this dude is a legend.
Oh man!
And you go back, and I'm going to continue to give you your flowers because he's like, I can't sell anything, dude. You're still around. You've been around for 100 years, man. I mean, you're selling yourself and your brand. It's unbelievable to see as a kid growing up listening to your shit, and I'm still listening to your stuff, and it's like, dude, it's unbelievable how you stay relevant. I'm going to tell you a quick story. There's a gentleman that came on the show a couple weeks ago named John Daly. Okay. Daly, a golfer. I mean, that might be the most boring sport ever for people to watch. But everybody still knows who John Daly is because of his brand and how he presents himself and just being a legend. Like, that's how I look at you. Like, you've been, whether it's the rap game or the country game or any type of genre. I mean, dude, let me just tell you something. I've opened up multiple. When I give best men speeches, I've been the best man in a couple weddings. And when I give speeches and I go up to give my speech, I got to shake the nerves off a little bit. So what I do is I sing a song prior to going and giving my speech. You know what song I sing?
What is it?
Give 'em the beat, boys, and free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll and drift away. Dude, it's my favorite song of all time,
Does
man.
that help? Does that calm the nerves?
It does, because then you show everybody you can't sing, and now I'm just, okay, well, I can't get any worse than that. Now let me hit my speech. And I give great speeches.
Oh, so you do that in the microphone to the people before the...
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
You know, you get the nerve, you shake them off a little bit.
Set the tone. Like, you aren't about to get anything special right now. This is just like...
So let me just start singing. So it's one of my favorite songs. So what I'm getting to is like you've been around a long time. I think you're a very intuitive person. I think that you are very smart in this music industry, whatever genre it is. So what I do is, especially when I crack open one of these Outlaw Lights, okay, and I have beer thoughts. Music today is a lot different than it was 30 years ago and even 10 years ago. Like, what are your thoughts? And I really want to get your knowledge in country music too, but just music around why it changes so much.
You know, that's a good question too, and it is weird to think of like how different, you know, and how different things are versus, you know, X amount of years ago. But things do things. I think things ultimately have to change. You know, otherwise, like everything gets stagnant and dies, right? Like I think things have to change. Things have to evolve. I mean, they haven't made up any new notes. You know what I mean? There's only 12 of them. Fact check.
We need to do that.
But, you know, but they haven't made up any new notes, man. And but it's weird to see how, I think they've made it easier for everybody to make music of whatever they're making, right? So you hear a lot of, I hear a lot of junk, you know, and I don't, I never.
Man, you got AI writing songs now, for God's sake.
I cannot tell you how many times, like, me and my buddies, like, we swap memes back and forth, and it's that stuff. Like, these kids, like, I'm a music artist, and I'm a this, and they're singing, like, these poor kids are on there singing these AI songs. Like, it's just, you can tell it was like, I don't know. You just know, right? You know, like, I can appreciate, like, a shitty written song. Like, oh, man, like, he could have went there, or he didn't do that, or, and I'm never judging, but it's hard not to throw out some feedback or think about, like, what somebody could have did different.
Yeah, as you should. And you mentioned, obviously, back then when you were getting started, 12, 15, you know, however old, rap was your main focus.
Mm-hmm.
And then did anything happen? I mean, tell me on the Kid Rock thing. I know you were talking about that, but like...
So that was it. Like, so I started out doing all the rap stuff, and Kid Rock and I met, you know, basically through, like, this DJ battle competition, which was, you know, essentially...
It's like some 8 Mile stuff right there.
But yeah,
like
a lot whiter, right? This was a different scenario. Although, it was a good blend in this club, you know, growing up. But, you know, the rap stuff, we bonded over rap, all things rap. And I started going out to his house in the woods. Like, his parents had a barn out in the back, and he had a little studio set up out there. And shit, we'd make songs out there for days. And I'd run back to my suburb, and we'd just honing, you know, just writing new. And it was and that's kind of what it was back then too, you know, between you and your friends that all did it. It was like it was camaraderie where you couldn't wait to get back and show them what you just wrote yesterday. Like, check this shit out, man. Like, I just wrote this last night. Feel that this is fresh, isn't it? You know, just that was growing up to me. So we had bonded over all this rap stuff, became best friends, and then it got to a point where I was DJing for his rap thing, right?
For Kid Rock.
Yeah,
okay.
This was back, you know, he put his record out in like 90. I was probably 16, 15 at the time. So I started DJing for him. I was very cost efficient to do this, right? And then a few years went by, he put out Polyfuse Method and wanted to start touring. So, you know, he had picked up this manager that was great at, like, booking bars and things like that. He's like, nah, you got to have a band. These bars ain't going to book rap acts. So Kid Rock immediately assembled a band, finished learning how to play the guitars, and just went balls out. Like, if I can't play without a band, then we're going to do this like this. So then he incorporated the band. I'm still DJing. And just watched all that stuff unravel, right? And at the time, I'm little and I'm young, and he's older than I am. So he's kind of like my older brother and my mentor, and I'm just kind of doing what he says, you know, at that point. And, you know, like, whatever you say, boss, whatever you say, okay, we're doing this. All right. Oh, carry all that shit into that club? Okay. I'll carry the lights in too. Oh, am I working the strobe light and the smoke machines from behind these turntables as well? Boom, you know. But it was fun. That's just what we were doing, right? And he might have been the only person with a plan and a goal, but was fun to watch. It was fun to watch, fun to be a part of. And we just evolved out of that. And, and from DJing, I learned that there was a whole bunch of other type of things going on out there than it was just the rap stuff that I loved. And that people didn't necessarily love the things that I love. And just from playing the things that other people loved, I would pick up things from those that I liked. And then just as I started honing my songwriting, writing rap stuff versus writing just like regular songs, night and day. Like writing songs is like a fraction of like old school raps.
Why do you say that?
Well, you had to write 3, 4, 16, 24 bar verses. These had to be, and they all had to be on point. Every 4 bar had to have something, had to have something poignant, had to have something to sink your teeth into. You had to say something. You know what I mean? You couldn't just be babbling or, just schlepping it in, right? But these songs were so much shorter, and I was like, well, that's too easy. Especially nowadays, songs are 2 minutes and something seconds long.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if I said what I even wanted to say when I started trying to say it, right? That doesn't give anybody enough time to say what they're gonna say.
Yeah, to tell the story. I agree with that.
Right? So it's just different. It's where music is at nowadays, and boy, has it come to a point where, listen, and I'm not knocking anything. I just remember a time when music was way different, meant more. It feels like songs had way more meaning than they have nowadays.
Back in the good old days, And then now you got social media. That's how you're promoting your stuff. I mean, I don't know if you are, great if you are, Matt, but you got TikTok. I mean, people are dancing on TikTok trying to promote their self. Are you doing any of that type of stuff?
I mean, no. And I listen. I wish I did. I wish. Trust me, I scroll all day long.
Yeah.
I'm like, because there's always a lot of time during the day, like, just scrolling on these things. I haven't really floated around TikTok much. I think I have a TikTok, and these are things that my daughters have made me put up. Like, you got to get a TikTok account, Dad. And this was years ago, and I haven't really done much on it. I'll post on my Instagram stuff myself. I remember when Twitter was big and huge. I don't know if it still is or not, but I just remember thinking, what am I doing here, right? Like, how many times can I tweet that I'm in the Burger King drive-thru again, what am
So take me back, I want to go back in Detroit when you were doing, you're in the rap game and you were hustling, bootstrapping. How were you promoting back in the day when there was none of these tools to help promote yourself? I mean, I feel like it's hustle and grinding.
We did hustle and grind. We were late nights, flagging telephone poles. We were out there with,
epic.
We'd go. We were at Kinko's making copies and just posting, shows on the telephone poles at every red light. It was very street teamish, I guess, without all the team, right? Consigning things. We used to consign cassettes at record stores and things like that. And then Bob got smart one year, and he started including the barcodes on the back of these things.
The QR code? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, back then it was the barcodes, and it was for sound scan, right? So then they could count how many records you were selling. Well, once he did that on his own thing, I don't know. I think he scanned 30,000 out of Detroit, in a matter of a few weeks when he put something out, right, by himself. So, when you look at it, the numbers were good back then. It didn't cost anything to print up cassettes back then, and studio time wasn't near what it costs today, for nothing. But it was once record labels were, they get these sound scans. They're like, who the fuck is this Kid Rock kid? How did he sell all that? And this, this thing came out. They could see these numbers, right? They started sniffing him out back then. But
was Eminem around at this point in time, or?
So Eminem was around back then, and Eminem used to pick me up when I'm sure I have pictures somewhere, but Eminem and his buddy his name's Mannix, used to come pick me up in 9th grade. And I remember they'd roll up in my driveway like hammer pants. You know, they'd be jumping out of like a 78 black Blazer with no roof on it because they didn't have the roof, you know. But I remember them picking me up, 9th grade, taking me back to their house, and me and Marshall would be in the basement making rap songs. And this is a long time ago, right? And me and Marshall always got along. He hated Bob. They didn't really know each other, so I'm sure they hated each other just for, you know, Marshall was always awesome, right? He was always the badass rapper. But Kid Rock was the first one out of Detroit with the record deal, and so I don't think Marshall liked that part, and them two just didn't have Bob didn't care one way or the other, right? But Kid Rock didn't care one way or the other, but, you know, Marshall, knowing how fresh he was, I think he just didn't dig that part, and but then fast forward, Kid Rock gets his record deal at Atlantic Records, and he's recording. We're out in California mixing Devil Without a Cause, and we get to like this corporate housing place where they put us up at for like the month to sit there and mix this record. And it's in California, like Toluca Hills maybe. And we get there and we got our bags. We just get dropped off. It's probably like a Sunday or something like that. And we're walking to this thing. It's similar to like a townhouse that's like an Airbnb almost, something like that, right? But they're all the same. And Marshall's walking down the hallway. This is out in California, right? And he's like, what are you guys doing here? I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, I got a record deal with Dre. I was like, well, we got a record deal with Atlantic. You know, this, but it was like, that's how like it all came to like, everything kind of got squashed and like there was no beef, but there was a beef. That, you know what I mean? It just got squashed. Yeah. Like everybody was like, all right. So, and then it turned out we were mixing the Devil Without a Cause record at the same exact studio that he was mixing the Slim Shady record at the same exact time. So then not only were we at the same housing place, you know, for the month and a half, we were in the same studio. So every morning we were in the studio all day together. Just like me, Bob, Marshall, at the same exact time.
And not only were you in the same studio, you were also creating just unbelievable projects
both
at
records,
the same time.
Yeah, both records ended up being dope. And
100%.
And I remember, and the studio was nuts too. This was back like, I remember Stephen Jenkins from Third Eye Blind coming in. He was trying to do a remix on one of them songs. So he had Kid Rock and Eminem, who were two unknown rappers in the other room, come in and do like freestyles and things like that. So I know he's sitting on some old Third Eye Blind shit that never got released that has Kid Rock and Eminem all over it. And they were nobody at the time, you know, in this grand scheme of things. Just it was a good time. It was a bizarre time, but it was great. It was great music back when nobody thought about anything. You know, there were no you didn't have to think about selling anything. You didn't have to think about nothing.
Just putting out jams. So at what point were you like, hey, I can do this singing thing too? It's my turn.
Well, so all that kind of when it came time so we were on tour with Devil Without a Cause and the Kid Rock thing, and I had written so much of the Kid Rock album with him that his record label was like, well, we should just we're going to give Kracker a record deal, right? And at the time, you know, Kracker was just my nickname, so we were using that as that's a whole other story. But they ended up giving me a solo record deal based on like everything I had done with him anyway, because that record they knew, you know, just on the data, they knew how big that album was going to be. So they were just, maybe they were handing it out or whatever. But that's kind of how I got my record deal. Just barely basic, because I had basically one song for them to listen to that was of any significance. It was the first song on my Double Wide album. And it was like this bluesy rap thing called Better Days, right? And I just remember the label thinking that was going to be their answer to... Everlast had that song out at the time. Then you really might know what it's like. Remember that one? This thing. Yeah. They thought they were gonna have like this answer to this like bluesy rap thing that was killing it at radio at the time, which all record labels did. Thought they had the answer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Katy Perry's doing this. We need to get this girl to sing one just like it. And you know what I mean? It's just everybody clamoring to do just I don't know. It's not about the money. It's about the money. Right.
100%. And you were. The blues, I'm glad that you mentioned that too. I mean, some of your blues jams, like that's soul music, man. It was just fantastic.
That's all stuff that like is fun to dig into. You know, when it comes time to write a song and you're just in there, like never really sat down and thought about like anything commercially, or even though some of my stuff does sound commercially, it's just kind of like, you know, growing up and listening to like old Motown things and things like that. It's a very, very basic formula when it comes to like, you know, songwriting as far as like arrangements and things like that. So it's the only thing I had to go on when I started writing songs, you know, like I had no musical background as far as like music education, things like that. Like, oh, it's got to resolve, you know, these things I have no clue, still don't, just always like if it felt good, it was fine. Right? Make sure you're saying something. And, you know, my grandpa, just make sure they can understand what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, that was his big...
Is that what Grandpa used to say?
Grandpa had zero music, anything, but he was very, very vocal on, like, make sure you pronounce it right, right? Yeah. Enunciation is everything, right?
True. And make sure when you use the word, you use it in the right context.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that. That it's cool that you mentioned that too, because I always ask a question on the show, and I especially somebody that has done it in multiple industries like you have. I call it Cut That Song, presented by Case Knives. Okay, Case Knives, one of the greatest tools the farmers use today. One of my sponsors of the show. It's a knife company. Okay, Cut That Song. From back then to now. And anything in between, like especially your musical mind, no matter what the genre, what is a song that you wish you could have cut and it been your song back in the day?
Oh, man. There's a ton of them.
I know,
There's a ton of them. You know, you always...
What's one that just comes to mind like, man, I wish I was singing that song. I wish I would have cut that song.
Oh, when you look back at like old Sublime songs or something like Santeria, things like that, man. You know, you just, you know, Wrong Way, or... even if it had no business in my like repertoire, like my catalog, I'd still like so many times you're just like, you hear, as a songwriter, you hear somebody else's song, and if it's good, you know, to you, you're just like, I wish I could get my horse to do that. You know, you're just like, that's the but that's the fun part about writing songs, is that you're always writing to beat the last one, or a lot of people do it different. I always try to make the next one better than the last, and always like not in search of like the perfect song or the best song. You just try to make it as true to yourself and as you want it to feel as good to you, because you're the one that's gonna have to sing it anyway, right? Mm-hmm. How many times I get up there and I just cringe, and then ultimately end up just dropping a song from a set. If it goes too many times where I don't feel right, I'll just never play it. And then, but I guess my point was, anything Sublime, I wish I'd written, to be honest. You know, those guys just wrote these songs that, I don't know, some of them seem like just mindless, self-indulgent, like whatever, but it all felt great, and it all had, somehow it meant something to me, right?
What was your favorite song that you did cut?
Well, I like songs of mine that were like Better Days and Good to Be Me and things like that.
Good to Be Me was a jam.
Those are all fun.
I like Drift Away, but you know
I like Drift Away too, and I can't. You know, I'm grateful for that song. Obviously, it was one I didn't put up a fight about cutting it because it was a cover, and I was a little irritated that we were coming back with my second album. We had just sold a couple million off my first album. We're going into my second album, and they wanted me to cut Drift Away. And like they just, before I had even cut it, they just knew like that was going to be the single and the thing. And that bothered this. Even though I had no clue how this business worked, still, at that point, going into my second album, I had sold a couple million records, still hadn't seen a penny. And I'm just like, Drift Away, like, thought we just sold a bunch here without covering songs, right? Like, why am I doing that? I just remember being so irritated that I made them put In a Little While out first just because. And then, because I didn't want to follow that record with a cover. But I had Drift Away sitting in the can anyway. So we did that. I got lucky with that song, too.
Good Day to Be Me, man. What a jam.
Yeah, I love Good to Be Me. It was definitely like one of the favorite, like, I just like feel good, timeless sounding things, right? Like Good to Be Me almost sounds like it could have been slipped into a radio, 30 years ago, whatever.
When you like classify or describe your music catalog, like what genre do you even throw that in?
I mean, you kind of have to be like, that's a country record or that's a pop record, because that's how they sold them. But so much of my stuff just bounces around, and it's not really by design. It's just by like, well, I think a lap steel will sound great on that one, or let's put a banjo on that. Let's put a nowadays you see people doing like, they got these pop songs and then they'll do like this remix and they'll throw like a banjo and a fiddle on it, and I'm like, that's the country mix, right? Mm-hmm. So much music sounds, similar to each other that it doesn't. Mine was always just like add that because it sounded better, right? And then like somebody, but I remember when we were younger, man, we cut Only God Knows Why, and so me and Bob wrote Only God Knows Why, and we turned it in, and I remember record label going, what the fuck are we gonna do with that? That's a country song. What are we going to do with Only God Knows Why? Remember what that sounded like at all?
Yeah.
They just say that's a country song. When I turned in Follow Me, they were like, what are we going to do with that country song?
Follow Me. God, another jam.
But these are songs they initially didn't even want to touch or look at or put on the albums, right? They ended up being big songs, but it's just, record labels, and people have cried about record labels for years, as long as I can remember, just like, the record label wants me to do this, and they made me do that. And granted, they do, man. But they had the gun, and all they wanted you to do was give them some bullets, right? They were just trying to make money. And the last time I checked, I never got into this because I saw somebody on TV and their garage broke, right? Like that's not why I got into music, right? Mm-hmm. These guys had big, nice videos, rappers and things like that. Looked cool, right? I didn't think beyond that, like that I could have money to do that too, but that's what sold me. Like it wasn't like you know what I mean? And then ultimately I just, where I ended up, I don't know, man. I just felt like I was just making music for people like me, I guess, right? People, hardworking people, I wasn't making music for people that were sleeping on people's couches, right? It was like, there was nothing indie about me. There was nothing. It was just, I don't know. I was really young, and I got a record deal and just kind of navigated.
And then like over the last, let's just say 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I feel like you're still very active. I mean, you're still getting. I mean, how many?
I just put out my first record in like years, right? And full length, anyway, like a full record. And I even feel funny saying record nowadays. I mean, do people still say records?
I don't think so, man. I think you're just old. I'm just kidding.
And now I'm my grandpa.
Now I will say. So, what was the last time that you dropped a record?
Just dropped a new record a few months back.
I know, but before then, what would it have been?
2012.
Okay, so at what point, this is great, 2012, 2024, 2025, mm-hmm. Now what you're doing now, like at what point, like what happened that you said, man, it's time to get back on the saddle?
I was never really out of the saddle. So after I had dropped that record, I toured it for a couple years. Just like back then, these were the cycles. These were the record label cycles. Okay. You put out an album, you toured it for 2-3 years. Then you put out another record, right? This is, they needed 6 months, to set an album up. That's how much time they needed to set this record up back then. They didn't even talk to you about doing new stuff anywhere near the song you just put out, right? Like nowadays, kids are putting out songs like, at once a week,
yeah.
Which is dope. And I remember begging my record label, like, can we just go in and cut new stuff? Like, I'm kind of bored,
yeah.
But no, it wasn't even a thing back then. But the album come out, let's say 2012, and then then go 2015, because I had toured that a couple years. 2015 comes and I get like this different record deal, because in 12 I had bought my record label back from the label I had been at for 14 years, and I put it out on Sugar Hill back in 12, right? And then 2015, the guy that signed me originally years prior signed me for like this. They had this idea that they were doing this. They had me cut this song, right? 15. So this was kind of like a side record deal with a single out, but that was in 2015. And then 2018, I popped another single. So it wasn't like I was not doing anything,
yeah,
right? But full length and all that. But I was touring. I'd been touring for the last 20 something years, and probably around 2012-ish or so. Throw a divorce in there, you know what I mean? Then all of a sudden I'm sitting there with me and 3 daughters, right? And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna tour now, right? I'm gonna ease off here and sit down and see what being a stay-at-home dad feels like, right? So I did that for a little bit, and And then the girls are like, well, you need to go get out of here and do something, right? So once I figured out they were good and they were great, I started getting back out on the road. And that's kind of when that single thing popped up in 2015. And it's just kind of been like, I don't know, life, I guess, right?
100%.
And I just remember long time ago, I seen this interview with George Strait, and they were asking him something. And I was young. This is probably right after my first album came out, and I had been out 3 years on tour with Kid Rock's first album, dropped my solo album, and toured another year and a half on that, and was just whooped, right? And I just remember seeing this thing. I was in a hotel, and George Strait was just like, he mentioned something about music and how music wasn't his life. I mean, he had a life. That music wasn't his life. But the way he said it in this thing, this interview, just caught me in this hotel at the right time. And I was like, God, that motherfucker's right, man. Like, I need to figure that one out, right? Because there's a balance. There's a balance with everything. And at the time, I did not have balance, right? That first Kid Rock record and tour was like little space shuttle to hell, right? I'm out on the road 22 years old. Like, we're out there doing things we should not have been doing. I had no business being out there that young, is what I'm saying. Gone is what it was. Mm-hmm. And but to see George Strait talk like this and just really knocked me into perspective then, and I then started prioritizing things then, right?
Balancing out. It's very refreshing. I'm not going to lie. I said I've been a fan for the last 30-something years. But it's nice to know, and I've done some research. Obviously, I got a great team. You've got a great team. Shout out Sophia. She's my favorite. Hopefully,
thank you.
None of my other Nashville people find that out, hear that. But it's nice to see that, like, you've surrounded yourself with good people, and, like, you're a father first. I mean, it's really cool to see, the different behind the scenes, behind the curtains, under the hood of the people that are on stage and that you're listening to. So I'm giving you your flowers on that. I think it's awesome. But it's really cool, too. People are like, damn, Uncle Kracker just released a new record. Like, that's awesome. That should feel really good.
It feels good. And to be able to still have an outlet for it, that feels great.
Because like even from 2012 to 2025, like me and you just talked about, it's changed a lot.
It has.
This game.
100%. And even the way things sound is different. Like, but that's one thing I've never really switched up or been a part of. Like, all right, I'm gonna sound like this now, or now I gotta do this to make it sound like that. Like, I've never really done that. It's just whatever felt good in the studio at the time. And I swear I don't listen to anything, like, unless it was put out like 80 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Not that long ago, but you know what I mean? Unless it was older stuff. I just feel like I've been burnt too many times trying to listen to something new. There are some new songs that'll leak through that I'll hear, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of dope. That's fresh. That's a good one,
Yeah.
And
it could be any genre. I mean,
absolutely.
If let me put your Mount Rushmore of musicians, if you had to, I want to hear Uncle Kracker's Mount Rushmore of musicians, and it can be any genre. You just throw it out there.
Oh man, how many are on Mount Rushmore? Surely there couldn't have been more than 4 great presidents.
Yeah, 4.
Right?
There's 4. Yeah.
Man, the Mount Rushmore of music. I guess it would twist a little bit too. Like so I'm answering right now. So I don't know. I would put. Good Lord.
He's like, I'm gonna piss some people off right now.
No, not at all. I listen. My stuff that I listen to is so across the board,
Which is why I'm asking you. That's what I love about you.
I would put like Dave Windorf from Monster Magnet up there. I'd put his face up there, all black hair, straight and greasy. Right? I'd put him up there. Probably one of the freshest things that ever happened in music. Obviously, everything's arguable, but I love Magnet. I love Windorf. He's up there. I'd put him right next to like John Lee Hooker. I'd put him right there. Good Lord.
2 more.
I mean, I could honestly back that up. I could back that up, and I could put Barry Manilow's face up there.
It's another good one. You got 1 more.
I mean, One's too. I mean, I got a million to pick from, I guess. Right? I do hold a lot of people in high regard when it comes to music, but I don't know, man. I'd put Don Williams next to him. It would be like
They're good ones.
Well, and that would be like this morning's Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
right.
and
That's
it could
probably
change.
that was probably the 4 I listened to on the way here from Oak Hill. Right.
Yeah.
Just
You're thinking like, damn, who did I just miss right now?
Yeah. Well, no, but you know what though? If it depends on which day. If you're like, oh, here's 4 or 5 you could take to a deserted island, and that's all you'd get to listen to for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad about those.
No,
That'd be a great
absolutely
one.
not, yeah.
But if you ask me tomorrow, it could change. You know what I mean? The faces could change a little bit. But it would be something I would love as equal. You know, I would love just as much as those, right?
Yeah. I got you a gift.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Got you some brand new TECOVAS boots.
Dope.
But
Well,
to get them, we play a game, okay?
all right.
This game's called Give 'em the Boot, presented by TECOVAS. Now, these are honestly, I'm telling you, Uncle Kracker.
There's
right
always
here,
a butt, right?
These right here are probably my favorite right now that they have.
Oh, wow.
So like the little color scheme up top.
Are these things comfy?
Oh, dude, are you kidding me? They're the best. Now, 4 questions in here.
Okay.
You got to answer all of them, but you can give one of them the boot. But if you get, which means you don't have to answer it.
4 questions. Got to answer all 4.
Or you can give one the boot. If you give one the boot, that means you have to answer the rest of them.
Let's grab one out of here right
Yeah,
now.
you're doing one at a time.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Shit.
Read it out loud for the...
You might not even want to air this story.
I do. What's the question? What question is it?
This says favorite Kid Rock story.
Oh, yes, I absolutely want to hear this.
So I know I mentioned a divorce and I mentioned kids, and I now have 2 new kids with a new wife and stuff. So when I start saying this stuff, I'm like, they're going to hear this.
Well, you just
This
pick,
is
you've got a
gonna be
million Kid Rock stories. I mean,
I know, but they're all pretty equal, you know. But my favorite, I feel like, I'm just kidding. So my favorite Kid Rock story, I mean, it's no secret. We've had a lot of fun. Favorite Kid Rock story, this was probably pre-record labels. And I remember Atlantic Records was coming out to a show we were doing in Akron, Ohio. Because even before he got like his big record deal, we toured all over the Midwest, just nonstop. We looped, right? But we were playing in a club in Akron, Ohio, and the record label was coming out to see the show. This was a showcase. This was prior to show though. I remember we show up to this club early. You know, we got backdrops and lights and tiny club, but Kid Rock always had a good following, right?
yeah.
So prior, we drop acid before this show, right? Probably. I just remember doing this kick-ass, like, 2-hour show. Everybody's pumped. Everybody's excited. But it was a club, and there was no backstage. You didn't walk onto stage, play, say goodnight, and then walk back off stage to your dressing room, right? This was a small shithole bar, club. You had to walk off the stage into the crowd to get anywhere, right? So now we're almost a few hours into acid, right? And I just remember thinking, like, what are we doing up here, man? Like, show's over. I'm hiding behind the backdrop, right? He doesn't want to, because he's tripping too. He doesn't want to get off the front of the stage. I know this because I'm in the same headspace, right? I'm hiding behind the curtain. He ends up getting on the turntables and just starts DJing, like just throwing down this like scratch set. And I just remember being behind the curtain. I'm like, get out of there. Get out of there. I felt like Mickey, like in Rocky's corner, like, get out of there. You can't beat him, Rock. You know, like I just remember I felt like this guy, like, they'll eat you like wood and shit you out of chair. I just remember being this, that's my favorite Kid Rock story, that we were all on acid when the record label came to sign us.
It's a great one. Mm-hmm. All right, next question.
Oof. I should have booted that one. Should have booted it. What would your name be? What would your name be if not Uncle Kracker? So I went over this before I became before I plugged the Uncle Kracker name, Kracker was just a nickname, and I would have much rather just been Kracker and that'd be it or whatever. But I had to put something either before it or after it to make it legal because there was already a band called Kracker and blah blah blah. Rather than become an ATM machine for them, I just put something in front of it like Uncle. But while I was trying to figure out a name for that, there was a guy from back where I come from. His name was Hal Jarvis, and he was like the mayor of Roseville, and he was like this older guy, and he wore these big fat sunglasses and these bucket lids, and it was classic like just old gangster looking bookie stuff, right? But he was the mayor, and I just remember thinking like Hal Jarvis. I was like, kind of a dope name. It was that close from being that, but the record label was like, no, you gotta stick with Uncle Kracker, right? It was like, but they didn't. They liked Uncle Kracker better than Hal Jarvis, I guess. And at that point, I was so over trying to think of a name, right? I was just like, okay, so Uncle Kracker it is. So that was boring story, but that is the
There was a chance it would not have been though.
So, tell a tour story no one knows. Well, I don't know. This isn't very great or nothing like that, but so many years of touring and so much touring.
Yeah.
I remember when we were young, they would send us to Europe a lot, right? I remember going to Europe, and we were up in Manchester, England. We were in England, Manchester, and had a lot of time off over in Europe. It seemed like we'd go over there, and shows we weren't packed as much, so we'd have a lot of time to kill. And we would do that in pubs and things like that, right? And but I remember coming out in Manchester. We had been out and about, and it was probably 2 in the afternoon, sun shining, and we go, and it's us, the band, Kid Rock, Twisted Brown Trucker Band, and we're walking, and me, they drive on the opposite side of the road over there. But coming out of a pub at like 2 in the afternoon, it's not the first thing on your mind.
Yeah.
But I just remember coming out, and I'm like, all right, we're going this way. And I just immediately went out, and I didn't see it, but there was a bus coming, and Kid Rock's keyboard player, Jimmy Bones, great guy. He still plays piano for Kid Rock. He was older than us. He was probably 10 years older than us, so we always called him Grandpa and out there, even though he wasn't. But when you're 23 and somebody's 34, you're like, this guy's old, right? Tackles me in the middle of the road. And I just remember, what the fuck was that? Everybody's had a couple drinks, right? So I thought he was just fooling, but as we were going down, I was like, this motherfucker, whoever it was, I didn't even know at the time, and then the bus just swings by, but saved my life. Definitely saved my life, but that was
shout out Bones.
not one you get to tell very often, right?
It's a good one.
Favorite country musician right now?
Who you listening to on the radio?
Kind of dig that Parker McCollum stuff.
Yeah.
If I had to pick something right now, I dig that. Listening to it.
Parker's come on the show, and man, what a beautiful story too. And he even said, he's from Texas and country musician, but he's who he is. He's like, Pat, you'll come to my house and I got all the jewelry and a bunch of cars and I listen to a bunch of rap, I'm myself. He's comfortable in his own skin, and that's what I love about that kid, man.
See,
he's a stud.
Good, because I've never dug into that side of him or where he comes from.
Loves rap music.
Just love the music, right? If I had to pick one country cat now, I like the Parker McCollum stuff, and that was the first thing that came to mind.
It's a great one.
It's one of them ones, like I said, man, I don't listen much to I won't put on that and listen to the entire, hour of repeat stuff, but my wife does. So I'll be, but something will pop on. I'm like, oh, it's dope. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think the last person I heard that from before then was Walker Hayes. He had this song on the radio, You Broke Up With Me, something first, and I was like, oh, it's kind of dope, right?
That's true.
So yeah, Parker McCollum right now.
This is why I love this game, so everybody gets to know who Uncle Kracker is. What are you excited about right now? What's coming up? You've got the record that just dropped a couple months ago, banger. But what's coming down? Any cool projects, new songs, new tours? What's going on?
I've been writing a lot lately for new stuff already, and that's what's cool about being in Nashville is just it's it's a lot different than being in Detroit, where I've lived for the last, for my entire life up until a couple of years ago, right?
And then you moved to Nashville, yeah.
Moved to Nashville.
And what was the reason behind that?
Change.
Yeah.
Just needed some change, something different. Like the winters in Detroit, I've had enough of, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, brutal. And not that they don't have a winter in Nashville, but a little more forgiving than Detroit. But change, being able to see live music everywhere at any given moment is nice to go do. It's very, just keeps you, I'd go home after touring in Detroit and you're just kind of there, like no like-minded people, I guess, around you. A ton of friends, right? Love everybody around me and family, but just no real like-minded people where like, man, I want to, wake up and if I don't want to hammer that song out myself, man, I'll just call my buddy here and be like, hey, man, you want to dig into this one for a second? Let's do that here. We can do it here. I got an office here. We can do it and we can run to the studio and do it. Everything's within a couple minutes. It's just nice, man. It's good for, if you're feeling creative, it doesn't stop anything for you, right? And you can be in the studio and everybody's seconds away like, man, get that fiddle player over here.
Yeah.
This would sound dope on here right now. Like,
yeah.
we ain't wrote it yet. Yeah, but it would still sound sweet. Get them in. Things like that. Things that need to happen on the fly and the spur of the moment can happen here much easier than they could happen for me in Detroit. So that was very cool. That was a very, very, very big part of coming to Nashville.
Then going on the road anytime soon?
Going out with Jake Owen next month. Yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, great tour. Love Jake. Always loved his stuff, and he's always been the coolest cat. So it'll be a fun tour. Looking forward to that. So yeah.
And you'll sing some obviously on the new stuff. Do you ever bring the crowd back and sing any of your older stuff?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I can't get out of there without doing it. I feel like I cheat people, but I don't do that.
They would hunt you down.
I hate playing new stuff anyways. I'd much rather play the hits.
What's your favorite song to perform live?
It's hard not to say, Drift Away and Follow Me and those things. Smile, Sun Goes Down, things like that.
Too. Sun Goes Down.
It's hard to say those aren't my favorites because those are the ones people just roar back at
Sun
you.
Goes Down, that was with Kenny. Mm-hmm. Was it just you and then brought Kenny on, or was that from the jump with Kenny?
That was Kenny. Well, that was Kenny on Kenny's album.
And then
one day Kid Rock calls me. He's like, hey, Kenny Chesney's going to call you. And I was like, well, who's Kenny Chesney? And he's like, well, he's this country dude. He wants to call you. He wants to ask you if you'll come out and do something. Well, Kenny was playing Neyland Stadium in Knoxville.
Yeah.
It was going to be his first stadium show he'd ever done. This is years ago. And so he was kind of putting together like a special guest thing. He wanted to do, to bring out special guests for the show, right? He's in the stadium. He wanted to bring just for show stuff. So he had called me. He's like, hey, man, it's Kenny Chesney. And I knew he was calling anyway. I had to research a little bit, but I was like, yeah, man, I'll be. He's like, I'll send a plane and come on down to Neyland, do Follow Me, Drift Away up there with me, and okay, however that shook out. And I just remember getting to Knoxville and we did this. I just remember my pants were falling down and I had to use in-ear monitors. 'Cause back then it was kind of a newish thing, and I just remember holding my in. I couldn't. I still don't like in-ear monitors, right? But fun and just he and I. But that night, it wasn't that night. He had come back to Detroit probably 2 weeks after that. I went out to see him, and I don't know, we're on Deanna Carter's bus or something like that, and Kenny plays me this song, Sun Goes Down. He's like, man, I want you to cut this with me. And I was like, yeah, man, whenever. Like, that, I remember hearing it, thinking like, yeah, that'd be dope. I'd love to cut that thing with you, right? It'd be awesome. And then I didn't hear nothing from him for like a few weeks. And finally I was like, hey, man, we cutting that? I didn't want it to get away, right? I was like, we going to cut that or whatever? So I came down here and we cut it. Met him randomly, him calling me to do that show. And he and I just became such good buds, man. He's still one of my best buds. We talk every other day. Just, dude would give you the shirt off his back, right? Just the nicest cat. I don't think anybody's got a better ear in this town than he does either. He's always got great input on songs, on, whatever it is. Always got great input when it comes to business, marketing, all of it, right? He's just great. Just all-around cat, right? Good buddy to have. Couldn't ask for a better bud. He's, So that's how that ended up coming about. With
God, that's a great story alone, man.
Yeah, I got lucky with that one too, man. Like a series of luck.
Dude, you're so humble, man. It's time to everybody gets lucky. Don't get me wrong. But for what you've done for a long time and continue to do, like, you've got to realize, like, you are a salesman. You're an entrepreneur. You're the guy that continues to not only stay relevant, but do it at the highest level, man. It's awesome to see. Like, it really is. When I got the call about you being in town and could come on the show, like, I was ecstatic.
Well, like, I
you
appreciate you having me.
You can go to one of your shows and you see people a little bit older and you see the kids that are getting into the music and, like, you're entertaining all of them. And there's not a ton of people that can do that. And some people would just say, all right, I'm done. I'm good. Like, I've made a little bit of money. I'm good. I'm fine. Like, your love for this industry is second to none. And, like, you have this creative mind that you can keep. It's a generational thing of times are changing. I mean, you were competing back then with some monsters, whether it's in the rap game or the blues game or the country game. And now you're still doing it today. And there's not a ton of people that can do that. You're the fucking man.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You really are, man. I was pumped to have you on the show. We've had some great talks, got some new boots, and I'm excited to see what's going to come this year. The Jake Owen sounds amazing. Hopefully I can come catch a show wherever you're going. And the new record obviously is a hit. I want people to keep listening to that. But thank you for who you are and what you do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And as always, I appreciate y'all tuning in to Like a Farmer every single Wednesday on YouTube or wherever you listen to your audio podcast. Continue to like, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you got to do to be like a farmer.